Hello there, I'm Robert McKay. You've already seen just now what the channel is. Why was I doing this with the title cards? I have noticed I watch my own videos because it helps me see what I like and don't like about how I do it. And I'm the one I please. It's not that I want to be rude to everybody else, but if I don't please myself, what's the point? So I watch my own videos, and I've noticed that if I just hold that still, the Marcolot ink, it's a Sharpie. I grew up when Marcolot was the big brand. I've noticed that the ink kind of fades out, but when they move, it seems to be more visible, so I tried this. We'll see how it goes. I'm not going to upload this immediately after I record it, although that has become my new policy with reviews, and this is a review, for the simple reason that I did a review last night and I don't want to double up, as it were. I already recorded uploaded 2 videos on Sunday, which is when I'm recording. I don't normally record on Sunday neither, but I have a randomized rotation in which I go through my bottles, and the second bottle tonight turned out to be, you'd think I'd recognize it from the color, but Green River Foolproof. It is Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey, which means they made it and aged it in Kentucky. It means it has no artificial colors or flavors, and it's all from the same distillery. It's Green River, the pride of Owensboro, Kentucky. Well, I would say the pride of Owensboro, Kentucky has to be Darrell Waltrip, who is a retired stock car driver and now a retired Fox commentator for the NASCAR Cup Series races. Him and Michael Waltrip are from Owensboro. And it turns out, so is Green River Bourbon. This is 117.9 proof. They call it foolproof on the bottle, and generally foolproof tins, if you watch my videos at all, you know allergies kick in as soon as I start recording. Generally, foolproof tends to be 125, that being the maximum proof at which you can put bourbon into the barrel. But I suspect what it means here is barrel proof, the proof at which it comes out of the barrel and goes into the bottling line. It is, as I say, 117 proof. It's a sour mash whiskey, and unless they specifically tell you it's sweet mash, you can pretty well assume it's sour mash. That's by far the most common process because it's easier to maintain consistency. This particular bottle I got at Kelly Liquors on the 21st of September 2025. And it cost me $51.99. During the review, you'll see what I think of it, but I'll tell you here, I think it was worth that price. On the back of the bottle, it gives you some of the alleged history of Green River, and I say alleged. Sometimes the stories they give you are true. Sometimes they're just pretty stories to make you want to buy the whiskey. Sometimes what's on the label and the truth have at best a nodding acquaintance. Let's see, what else does it tell Distilled and bottled by Green River, Owensboro, Kentucky. And of course, if they hadn't made it theirself, if it had come from out of state, they couldn't say it was Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. It's non-chill filtered, and I've never done a taste comparison on similar whiskeys to see whether non-chill filtered or chill filtered tastes better. And the whole point of chill filtering is just silly. If whiskey that's not filtered gets below a certain temperature, some of the elements, some of the compounds in it tend to clump up and the whiskey gets cloudy. But if you're storing your whiskey at like 35 degrees, you have a problem anyways. If you want your whiskey cool, throw in what Casey Allen, a beautiful bourbon, calls a gorgeous ice spear. You know, put it on ice, or you can stick the glass in the freezer for 10 or 20 minutes if you want to chill it down. But whiskey, generally speaking, is best at room temperature, unless you just like it on ice. You know, that's your preference, not a problem with it. And it's best to store it at room temperature. Unless, of course, you're keeping your room at 35 degrees or 135 degrees, in which case, I just feel sorry for you. You know, if that's the way you like your room, well, bless your heart. So let me see. I follow the same format as my whiskey tasting sheet. I'm sure you didn't see much of that. I'll give you the name, I'll give you the price, I'll give you the proof. I don't believe there's an age statement on here. I do not see an age statement, and I never have researched the age statement. If there's no age statement on a whiskey, then it's NAS, no age statement. The color, it's not as dark as some, but it's certainly not as light colored as a Scotch whiskey or even some real young bourbons. Let me throw my papers at myself. Oh, and the shape of the bottle is interesting. It's got a horseshoe here on the bottom, and some people will play a game and try to scoot a penny in this center here between the ends of the horseshoe. I grew up pitching horseshoes, and I never was too good at it. My daddy could always whip me. I don't know if there was anything he ever did that he did poorly. He was smart, and whatever he did, he was good at. You know, he'd supervise me and my brothers. Thing is, what he was telling us to do and how he was telling us to do it, he could do it his own self. It's one thing to have a straw boss who doesn't know how to do it his own self and just runs you ragged, micromanages you. It's another if the guy telling you what to do can do it himself better than anybody else. That's a boss I respect, and I respected my daddy. And that's a whole long story. I was going to tell you some more, but I'll omit that. Got a real nice vanilla note, real prominent on the nose. Here's alcohol, of course. At what proof did I say it was? 117.9, as good as 118. You're going to get some alcohol, but it doesn't nose hot. Vanilla, there's a buttercream icing note in there, real rich and buttery. And I'm not getting any cinnamon. I might be getting some brown sugar in there. It's like a cinnamon roll that has so much icing on it and you slathered so much butter on that you're not getting the cinnamon as you smell the cinnamon roll. Tomorrow I'm off. I'll be off 4 days running, thanks to the way the schedule fell out. I might go down to the Frontier Restaurant and get me a package of their cinnamon rolls. Not the Frontier Restaurant, Golden Pride Chicken. It's the same people own both of them. But I'm not going to go down into University area and fight that traffic. But I can go to Golden Pride Chicken and get some of those cinnamon rolls. They're honking big cinnamon rolls. And they make them their own self. And you can nuke them in the microwave for a few seconds and put butter on them. Man, they are the only cinnamon rolls I've ever had better my mama made. And of course, mama's cooking's always the best. Alan Jackson, the country singer, has a song, Where I Come From, and there's a stanza about how he's maybe it's New Jersey, I don't know, somewhere's in Yankee Land, and he goes in a restaurant and he's eating, and the waitress asks him, how you like your biscuit? He says, I got to tell you, ma'am, it ain't like mama fixed it. Alan Jackson's a Georgia boy. Him and George Strait sound so much alike, their voices are so much alike that there's a duet they did, Murder on Music Row, and it's hard to pick out which one's singing at any given time. Yeah, it's kind of like a cinnamon roll with a lot of vanilla icing on it and a lot of butter on it. And now there is some of that cinnamon coming through. Real pleasant nose. I could sit and sniff on it all day, but that won't get me to where I want to go. So, that is a fantastic mouthfeel. It's oily, it's viscous. You can feel it flowing through your mouth and over your tongue. And for me, the first sip when I'm doing a review is always the mouthfeel, because if you focus on that, you're not going to get the flavor, but if you're focusing on the flavor, you're not going to notice the mouthfeel as much. And that's an awkward word, mouthfeel, but I don't know a better one. I can't come up with one on my own, and nobody else in whiskey tasting has ever come up with a better one. It's just how the whiskey feels in your mouth, not how it tastes, but how it feels, the thickness of it, the way it moves on your tongue, the texture of it. And mouthfeel is the only place I ever use the word smooth. Don't ever tell me that a whiskey tastes smooth. Tell me what it tastes like. Different people seem to mean different things when they say a whiskey tastes smooth. And one person, I've asked various people over these 4 years, what does it mean to say a whiskey's smooth? And while all the answers are within the same general area, no two of them is alike. So don't say a whiskey tastes smooth. Tell me what notes it has. You know, does it have barbecued pork? Does it have ground up chicken bones? Does it taste like you're chomping on a charred mesquite log? You know, tell me what it tastes like. And if it tastes like the things I named, I'm probably not going to like it. But if, on the other hand, it tastes like honey and vanilla and cinnamon and a little licorice, then I probably will like it. Just saying, oh, that's smooth. You know, I'm going to turn off your review right there, because I want to know what it tastes like. I'm not sure my palate is working as well tonight as it normally does. But the first thing I got, a little bit of burn there. It doesn't drink hot, but after I swallowed that, it was like somebody was lighting matches on my tongue back to front. And the tip is still a little bit on fire. But the first thing I got on that sip, as far as flavor, was something that reminded me of cool spring water, and I don't often get that. The first time I ever got that kind of note was on, it was either Bulleit Rye, which is a 95.5 mash bill, 95% rye, 5% barley, or on Bulleit Bourbon, which I don't remember the mash bill of that, but it's a high rye mash bill. But I get it now and then on different things, and I got it here. Then come a honey note, there was some cinnamon, and I've been talking so long I forgot everything I got, so I probably need to have another sip. Okay, I didn't get the fire that time, just a little sting from the alcohol, although here it comes rolling up to the tip of my tongue again. But that time I got honey, and I got brown sugar, I got some cinnamon, and I got a charred oak note. And too much of that would be unpleasant, but there was just enough here to counterpoint the sweeter and spicier notes. It kind of like a good rock song. You know, you listen to a song by The Who, one of their good songs like Long Live Rock. You don't hear Thunderfingers over there bonking on his bass, but if you was to take John Entwistle out of it, get the ox off the stage, the song would not be the same. It would be missing something. You know, you get all the pyrotechnics with The Who, from Roger Daltrey singing and Pete Townshend's guitar playing and Moon the Loon's drumming, and The Who just never was the same after he died. But the bass provides what they call the bottom. It's the foundation. You take that foundation away, everything else is just a little too light and a little too bright. And that charred oak on the palate here provides that bottom for the whiskey. And not every whiskey gives you that particular bottom, but all the good ones are going to have something dark and solid in there to counterpoint the lighter notes. Even a good Scotch will have that, at least in my very limited experience. On that sip, in addition to everything else I've mentioned, there's an almost grainy spiciness. It's a kind of like black pepper grains. It's kind of like black and red pepper. It has some characteristics of the black and some characteristics of the red. And that might come from rye. I don't know the mash bill here. I've not looked it up. I don't do the research for these video reviews that I did for the written ones, because I've gone to exclusively video reviews precisely to eliminate a lot of that drudgery. You know, if the review consists of solely of me drinking and telling you what's in the whiskey, it's a lot more fun than writing everything down and then writing everything up and then putting it here and there. I don't like lazy people, but if I can do the same thing and accomplish the same result this easy way or that, difficult way, well, any intelligent person, as long as the result is the same, will go for the easy way. And of course, there's times when the only way to get the result you want is to just bash right into it and do all the heavy lifting. When I was a stalker at Sam's Club, now I was not the fastest stalker there. I didn't even start stalking until I was in my 50s. And all these young kids, 20 some odd years old, muscles on their muscles, were whining how hard the work was. Well, yeah, it was hard work. But they weren't willing to do the hard work. I was. And so even though I was the slowest stalker, at least until it come to zoning, and then I'd go down the aisles like this, following my fingers, and I'd spot where something needed zoning up. But I couldn't stalk near as fast as the rest of them, especially on the GM side, general merchandise. But I was about the hardest working stalker there, because everybody else didn't want to work. And I'd not known nothing else my whole life. And sometimes that's the way you have to do it. But if you can do the same work an easy way or a hard way, go for the easy way. It means you have more left to give to something else. This does smell good. I'm getting some of the grain in there now. The corn is beginning to come through. And as you keep snipping, egad, I can't talk straight. I can't talk straight when I haven't been near a whiskey bottle in 22 years. As you keep sniffing and tasting, the two work together, and you're liable to get more notes on each as you keep doing both. And so that corn is coming through, and bourbon by definition is majority corn, at least 51%. There's some bourbons out there 75-80% corn. And on the finish, there's this blast of oak at the back of my tongue that kind of creeps forward. It blooms forward, to steal Casey Allen's term and apply it differently than he does. And he got it from coffee, so he's applying it differently. But it kind of bloomed forward, and it went down my throat. That's the oak. And with each sip, I'm getting less of that alcohol crawling forward on my tongue. And then with the oak, which is dark and, well, I'm not coming up with another word that fits. But it's dark, and in with that there's the brightness of some alcohol and some red pepper and some cinnamon, and it tends to linger on the center of my tongue and then go towards the back. That back half of my tongue is where that finish is, and then it slowly crawls down my throat. And it's not a very complex finish, but it's a very pleasant one. And it's still there. I've been talking, moving air over it, which evaporates the residual alcohol. And the finish is still there. It's fading. It's getting to be more and more just oak. The sting of the alcohol's almost gone, but now I'm getting a dark chocolate, even a semi-sweet chocolate, from the tip of my tongue on back, and that's what oak tends to transform into for me. So, to summarize, this is good whiskey. my palate doesn't seem to be functioning tonight as well as it normally does. Palates will do that. There's off nights. I have off weeks or half months sometimes. But it's a good whiskey going on past experience, I know that. And you can see I've been drinking on it. And I absolutely recommend this. For a long time, I couldn't find Green River anywheres here in Albuquerque, and now it's showed up. And if you can find Green River Full Proof, buy it. At least if your palate and mine agree. Now, you may not know yet whether they agree, in which case you'll have to go and watch reviews of things that I've reviewed and that you've tasted, and you can see how closely we align or how far away we are. But if your palate and mine generally agree, then go out and buy this, and I think you'll like it as well as I do. I have an 8-point or an 8-level Hick whiskey rating scale. 8 is the highest, 1 is the lowest. And I believe I would give this whiskey a 6, which is fine. It's fine whiskey. That is 3.75, 3 1/4 stars. It is 75 out of 100 or 7.5 out of 10. When Randy Sullivan on Bourbon Real Talk reviews a whiskey, and he's generally got either Wes, I can't remember his last name, with him, or his wife, Lindsay. And the first thing he asks as far as a rating is buy or don't buy. Buy. Absolutely buy. And if your palate agrees with mine, then you'll figure it's about 6 on the scale. A fine whiskey. 3 3/4 stars is not half shabby at all. Playing the Scorpions behind me. I like country music now and again. I like jazz now and again. You'd think to listen to me, all I'd listen to is country, but I grew up listening to rock, and it's my favorite, and Scorpions like rule, dude. But I don't know any German toast. I can remember when the Scorpions were a West German band. Now it's just German because there's only one Germany now. But that reminds me of Korea, which is still North and South Korea. And the division itself isn't a bad thing. At one time, what we know as Korea was multiple kingdoms, and then it coalesced over years, decades, centuries, into what they call the Three Kingdoms period. One was Goguryeo, one was Shilla, and the other was Baekje. And those three kingdoms were around for a good while, and then they merged, and at one point there was Joseon, which that means land of the morning calm, which is a nickname you may know for Korea. But anyway, thinking of East and West Germany got me thinking of North and South Korea, and as long as there's no tyranny in either half, I don't mind them being two separate countries. But let me give you a Korean toast. Tupshida.